And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire you whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Welcome to Roundup from day 3 in Wellington, where I'm pleased to say we got a full 90 overs in, lots of action, and I'm joined once again. Gives me great pleasure to have with me Tony Bishop. Welcome, Tony.
Hello, Messrs. Delighted to be here after a full night's commentary. Here I am, still here, chatting to you. What else would I be doing?
Well, possibly going to bed, but no, you don't want to.
Possibly.
Don't want to waste a good Sunday morning doing that. So, if I could get you to give us a brief summary of the state of the game as it's developed today.
Well, it's certainly developed. 138 for 7 is where New Zealand started. England would have been hoping to wrap it up quickly. They didn't factor in Tim Southee, who I have to say absolutely blitzkrieged poor old England. He came out on the attack, nearly got to beat his best ever test score, but didn't quite. But by Jove, he was well and truly on the attack. He was very well supported too by
Tom Blundell.
Tom Blundell for a while, and then latterly for a while, just for about 10 balls. So 73 off 49, Southee got 5 4s and 6 6s. I mean, he just went well on the attack. Certainly
56 of his 73
crazy.
runs from boundaries, which is my sort of person. Don't want to run more than necessary.
Absolutely. It still meant New Zealand fell, I think, 24 runs short of the follow-on target. That became the big question. Would England enforce it or not? The quicker bowlers, the aging quicker bowlers, had a little bit of rest. Overnight, of course. Jack Leach had done more of his share, a huge share of the work. Finished up with 3 for 80, by the way. Stuart Broad had 4 for 61, 3 for Jimmy. But they did decide to, rather against the modern trend, they enforced the follow-on. And was it going to go to plan after that? You bet your life it was not. Latham and Conway really settled in, and it was 149 on the board before New Zealand lost their first wicket. Conway fell. He went, caught Pope, another one for Ollie Pope, who's really carving his niche in that forward short leg position off the bowling of Leach. Will Young went cheaply. Latham went in the same sort of passage of play, really, LBW to Joe Root. But then Nicholls and Kane Williamson saw New Zealand home to 202 for 3. They don't trail by many, only I think 24. Kane Williamson is 4 runs short of becoming New Zealand's leading ever test run scorer overnight. I don't think anyone would begrudge him those 4 runs in the morning, but 24 is not that many. New Zealand can start to build a lead in the morning. Then it will just be a question of how big, how much of a lead. We did see the ball turn. We did see the ball moving, and it will be a new ball. The new ball was taken at the end of the play. They gave it to Jack Leach, which was interesting, although didn't really have the desired effect. But it'll be in the hands, I would imagine, of Jimmy and Broady in the morning, with all to play for. Fascinatingly poised, Messrs. Fascinatingly poised.
Well, indeed it is, Tony. And I must say, from a neutral perspective, it's nice to see a test that isn't rolled up all of a sudden by a collapse from New Zealand, for them to show that fight, to take us into the 4th day, and you never know, maybe the 5th.
Well, I think everyone looked at the wicket, didn't they, on the first morning, and they looked
Yeah.
at how green it was, but the fact is, it's flattened out to a certain extent. But it's what's really interesting is it is taking turn. I think Bracewell will be looking at that and going, just give me something to bowl at, because England have now, of course, a follow on. The other aspect that you need to always think about is it means you are going to have to bat last.
Yeah,
it is batting last on a wicket that is turning. Bracewell will say, give me 170, 180, maybe 200, and I could do a job for you here. So
You
I think
wonder
there's a
whether,
lot of cricket left here.
yeah, you wonder whether New Zealand might be wishing they had another spinner as well. Um,
Possibly,
just
possibly.
just take us back anyhow to the morning. Tim Southee was going nuts. Uh,
He,
Go on.
yeah, you're absolutely right. He was going nuts. He came out and he clearly had decided, possibly inspired, but he's pretty much his natural game anyway. He's got, isn't it, more sixes now than anyone for New Zealand? No,
No,
McCullum must have more, but
McCullum's
either
above
way,
him.
McCullum's had more.
Yeah.
But
I think as a
he's
proportion of his runs, he's the
yeah,
highest in Test cricket. Yeah.
he just decided that he was going to carry the attack to England. He set about Leach. He set about Robinson at one point. He launched Broad for a couple, and he looked for a point. You know, he was looking at a ton and a very quick one, but in the end, he was finally removed by was it that was the
By
first innings?
Broad. Broad took all
Broad.
three for the last
Broad
wickets.
got him. Yeah,
Yeah.
Broad got him. Broad caught by Crawley.
Yep.
But as I say, his mentality was the interesting thing. I'm just not going to roll over and take this. I am going to come out and really carry the game to you. That's what you'd do to us, and it paid off.
Yeah, well, to
And
go
it
from
paid off.
7 for 103 to 8 for 201,
That's right.
it's quite significant in the scheme of things. And
After that, the end came fairly.
yes,
Once he'd gone, it was 9 for 208, wasn't it? And then 209 all out. So
yeah,
Wagner, the not out batsman in the end, he's had a horrible Test match. So at least that's one little
yes,
thing he can cling on to as he grabs his beer this evening.
yeah. Well, I mean, and the follow-on enforced. One of the things that I think may have come into it too is the forecast for day 5 suggests there may well be some rain in the afternoon there. So the length of time available isn't as great as it might have been if that occurs. So
Well, I
it's
think it's good as well. Surely,
yeah,
Messrs. That you know, it is fantastic. England's run, you know, they're closing in on was it Michael Vaughan's record of whatever it was, 7 consecutive wins, I think.
right.
And it would be fantastic if they get that. But it's interesting to see England stretched in a different
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
You could see a bit of body language today that, you know, Stokes was desperately and I think ultimately successfully keeping chins up, making sure that the body language was right. But there was a period, particularly as Latham and Conway were just carving their way.
Yeah. Well, describe.
when the shoulders went down a bit.
Yeah. Well, they'd put on probably about 130 when Stokes brought himself on for 2 overs. Do you
What a
do you want to describe his first over? It's
Well, it was extraordinary. He clearly decided that his role was to be sort of Wagnerian, or Wagneresque, or it was the short pitch, wasn't it, to try and. But the fact is, you know, neither Latham nor Conway are giants, and he was bowling it so short that I think poor old umpire Gaffney had repetitive strain injury. That's probably why he kept wiggling his fingers, because he had to keep putting his hands up to and say 1 for the over, then it was 2 for the over, then it was 3 for the over, and there were no balls. And Stokes just kept doing it. And finally, you know, he realised he couldn't. And of course, as soon as he got one of a more conventional length, he was driven, wasn't he? But
yes. Well, I mean, he bowled 2 no balls because they were too short.
Yeah, it was extraordinary.
And he bowled a no ball that was massively overstepping as well. But if he'd bowled another one in that over, he would have been excluded for the rest of the innings as a bowler.
I think as far as his bowling goes at the moment, he's been very sparing with himself. We saw him with that enormous strapping on his knee. I mean, he'll never give you less than 100%. He's always something is likely to happen. He bowled 2 overs for 16 in the second innings.
Yeah.
But you know, the honest truth is, they weren't great overs, were they? And
It's probably the worst 2-over spell I've seen from an actual bowler in a very long time.
No, exactly. So I think he's rationing his input with the
But
ball, and
that
saving
being
it for the bat.
said, the fact is that Leach got a wicket of the wicket of Conway very soon after that, so maybe they've been rattled. I don't know. I did think that if the wicket had not been taken, Stokes might have just started doing crazy stuff like he has done on occasion previously when he hasn't been successful, and he's just gone a bit weird in terms of radical field placements, try anything, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
he did. Well, and that's why we all said, I'm sure he's going to give Leach the new ball. We didn't say I'm sure, but we thought it highly likely Leach should get the new ball. He did. He rarely lets a field settle. Who is it? Who am I thinking of? Who was the Pakistan captain before Babar Azam,
Oh,
wicketkeeper? Yeah, his name's
yeah,
Sarfraz. Sarfraz.
Sarfaraz Nawaz, yes.
Yeah, and the criticism of him was always, he let the game drift, and everyone would say in the same fielding positions, and not much would change. You'll never see Ben Stokes do that. He's
Yeah,
always looking to try something. The same mentality that governs the way they approach their batting, governs the way they approach their fielding. And remember,
absolutely.
England have said that it's not about the runs you concede; it's about bowling to take wickets.
Yes.
Sometimes that won't always work the way you want it to, and it's good to see them stretched. I think I'd like England to win. I'd equally like Kane Williamson to get that record, and I'd love it to go to a fifth day, and with all results on the possible.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the way it's shaping up, I think that could well be the case.
it's interesting you mentioned Kane Williamson. So prior to this innings, he had scored 11 runs off a total of 31 deliveries in this series.
Yeah,
He's
he's had a horrible
now
time.
scored 25 from 81 in this innings. Uh, and my sense is that while he may not have displayed huge attack, he's just looking really solid now, isn't
He is. I mean, 25 off 81. That's
he? Yeah,
the
boycotting.
absolute opposite of. It's like looking in. It's a mirror. It's a mirror. It could not be more different to the way England have played.
Yeah.
But that's his way of going about it. I mean, he's got a situation kind of made for him. They've got to sniff back into the game. They've got some batting to come. You've still got Mitchell, Blundell, Bracewell
Yes.
come back. Well, we saw what Southee can do.
Yeah, and
Henry could keep
Henry
him company,
Nichols
and
is looking
Wagner can
quite
give it a whack.
solid. Um, and
Henry
the
Nichols
wicket's
is
not
looking
playing any
tidy.
tricks. It's bouncing fairly well. I think you're right. I think the biggest threat is actually the ball turning. But
Yeah,
all 3 wickets have been taken by spin so far. So it could be an
and
interesting day tomorrow.
well, it could, and I think you could also say, I mean, England's non-frontline part-time spinners, if you will, are probably slightly better than New Zealand's
Yes.
part-time spinners.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that you have Rooty, who I think bowled pretty well, got his
Yeah.
wicket, and he certainly was making the ball work. It was interesting with the 2 left-handers in. That was the point at which I think they decided that we really needed to go, because you had the 2 left-handers working in tandem. It's definitely tomorrow could go any way, which is what you want.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's good to have something enticing tomorrow rather than something inevitable. So we're at stumps today. New Zealand at 202 for 3. They are still 24 runs behind, but there's no reason to think that they aren't capable of building at least a lead that could be challenging for England if New Zealand bowl well enough. I just
Well,
wanted to,
if you had
yeah,
Harry Brook coming in, and if the situation was reversed, and if this was England with a 24-run deficit, 7 wickets still in hand, and say Harry Brook still to come in, and Joe Root at the crease, I don't think for a second England's mentality would be, oh, we're right up against it here. Let's see if we
No,
can grind out the draw. Is it quite the opposite?
no,
They'd
no.
be looking for a way to win. It's
That's
just
very
that New
true.
Zealand's looking for a way to win is to get Kane Williamson played back into form, frustrate England, make it hard work, tire them out. It's a little bit more traditional, if you want to call it that.
Yes, indeed.
But I like it. It's a fascinating clash of styles, and can't wait. I can't wait
Absolutely.
to go to bed. But I also can't wait for the play to start tomorrow.
Well, a couple of nominations. The first one is our Guerilla of the Day, and I think it's important that we pay tribute to Shelley Beck. Is a first new female gorilla for quite a while, I think. South African, actually in Oxford. What is it?
She is.
We've got two South Africans on today, one in Oxford, one in Austria. But it's great to have her on board, and a big welcome to her, and great debut by her. But the tweet of the day is a little different from usual. It actually doesn't mention cricket, but it's from Southee in KL. And I just want to read it because it relates to the word catamite, around which there was considerable discussion. She says, the opening line from The Earthly Paths by Anthony Burgess. It was the afternoon of my 81st birthday, and I was in bed with my catamite when Ali announced that the Archbishop had come to see me. It's just brings all sorts of things to mind. And I hope, Tony, as a bishop yourself, you don't
Well,
take it personally. But thanks,
yeah.
Soph. Soph
You
doesn't
know what?
tweet very often, but when she does, it's always worth it.
You can't be neutral about catamites. You either love them or you hate them. Oh no, sorry, that's Marmite, isn't it?
I suspect the same is true. So I just want to say thank you to you, Tony. Thank you to all our tweeters, and thank you to all of you watching this. Please share it. Please let people know it's available. Uh, Follow us, and if you can, we'd love it if you could support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Guerilla Cricket. And we'll be back with another roundup tomorrow night. Until then, thanks for being with us. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what